July 3rd, Sunday, July 3rd. And tomorrow is July 4th, funnily enough. And it's a very, very special day for a lot of people, because July 4th is my wife's birthday. So I am filming 2 tonight, so that I don't have to film one tomorrow, so that I can spend time with her and lavish her with all sorts of gifts and presents, and maybe not gifts and presents, but I can basically give her some attention. But it is also Independence Day in America as well. It's not like they celebrate it or anything like that, sort of. So I thought what I'd do is I'd pick something special in a way that it kind of ties in with Independence Day. But up to 5 minutes ago, I was going to do what I'm going to do now, and then another one from the same distillery. I then did a bit of reading into it, and I found out that another bottle that I have, which is from the same distillery, is actually the same one. So we will get into this shortly. So, and these are bottles that I have myself. So this is my own stock, which are unopened. So this is Eagle Rare 10-year-old. And you can actually see that this remains unopened. So I'm cracking this open. Now, I'm hoping I'm going to do this live on camera, and I'm hoping what happened with the Noah's Mill last night, while I was around at my friend's house, doesn't happen again, where the cork snapped off and I had to get the what's it called, corkscrew, to try and get the cork out, and failed miserably. So I've still got the cork. If anybody's got an idea about how to get the cork out of a bottle of bourbon, I might just have to leave it in there and deal with it, because the seal still seems to be pretty good. There's enough cork in there that it's kind of holding the seal, and I'm going to put some tape around the top of it to keep it as airtight as I can. So Eagle Rare is from the Buffalo Trace Distillery, which is in Frankfort, Kentucky. And we've done a few Buffalo Traces already, and we've done a few releases from Buffalo Trace. They're a very big company. Now what I'll do is I'll actually go into the distillery more in the next bourbon that I'm going to do, because it's actually time. There's me trying to kind of make it all mysterious and everything like that. You'll probably know what it is because you'll see it tomorrow. I've got this, and then I've also got, oh Christ, sorry, because that's going to go right through the microphone, isn't it? I also have a bottle of this, which was unopened. I've just pulled the top off to open it. So I've got Buffalo Trace. So when I do Buffalo Trace, I'll go into the Buffalo Trace Distillery and the history about it. The reason for me doing that, I was actually going to do another one called Rock Hill Farms, which I'd seen on the list that I mentioned the other day, this Skew's Recent Eats, where he's got a list of all the distilleries and what releases they do. I've got another one called Rock Hill Farms, which is another of my own personal bottles, which is from Buffalo Trace. So I thought, right, I'll do the Eagle Rare, Independence Day. It's got an eagle on it. I'll read a bit of the back label in a second. Rock Hill Farms is also from Buffalo Trace. I'll do the two together, and then we can look at two bourbons from Buffalo Trace. What I've found out is that Eagle Rare, the mash bill of Eagle Rare, is the same as the standard Buffalo Trace. It's the same mash bill. Essentially, the only difference is the barrels that they're using and the age. Buffalo Trace is a non-age statement, and Eagle Rare is a 10-year-old. So this is a really, really good opportunity for me to try two whiskies, one after the other, that are essentially the same, and barring, Eagle Rare is a single barrel, Buffalo Trace is multiple barrels, Buffalo Trace is non-age statement, Eagle Rare is 10, but the core of it is essentially the same. So it's a good opportunity to try two that are very, very similar but different. So let me talk to you about Eagle Rare. And for you Americans out there, I'll just read what's on the back label. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the cornerstones of the birth of a nation epitomised by the American bald eagle. That nation has come to represent the freedom, spirit, and independence of the individual, giving the world products and innovations that are uniquely its own. So there you go. To be honest, what better whiskey could I pick for Independence Day? It's a beautiful bottle. To be honest, the reason that I got the bottle in the first place was the bottle rather than anything to do with the whiskey itself. Now this particular one I got this in America. I think this was one of the ones that my mum and dad bought me as a present when we were out there on holiday. You're looking at around $30 a bottle. 30 to 35, it kind of goes up a bit. Now Amazon are selling this in the UK and it was 36 quid. So that's not a bad price considering how much it is in America. And that was the standard bottling as well. So this actually started out as 101 proof, which was launched in 1975 for the Seagram's Drinks Company by Charles L. Beam. Now, I don't think he has any connections to the Beam family, as in Jim Beam, but I couldn't find out any further info on that. So the brand was sold to Sazerac, who owned the Buffalo Trace Distillery, in 1989. And in 2005, it changed from 101 proof, so that's 50.5% ABV, to a 90 proof, which is the one that I've got, which is the 45. However, recently, in the last few years, and I'll see if I can show you the label, this says Eagle Rare Single Barrel Kentucky Straight Bourbon. Now, I'm just trying really gently to put it down, A, so I don't drop it, and B, so it doesn't bang through the microphone. Here's a bottle of what it looks like at the moment. They've changed the packaging because it doesn't say single barrel anymore. Now, apparently, they still bottle it one barrel at a time, but they can't guarantee that the liquid that goes into a bottle at a particular time is from the same barrel. Essentially, by the sounds of it, they're taking one barrel, bottling it, and it's almost a case of, at some point, you get that bit where you finish off one barrel and you have to start another to fill that bottle. It's almost like there's going to be one bottle that's kind of one barrel and another barrel to top it up. I think that's the reason why. So it's not that it's a no age statement because it's still a 10-year-old, but it's now not single barrel. It's now essentially small batch. So it'll be interesting to see what it turns out like. Now, what a sound. So you're looking at about $30, $35 for this, and in the UK, 35 to 40 quid. So this is a 10-year-old. Now they also do a 17-year-old, which is essentially vintages. So it's a 17-year-old Eagle Rare, but they actually say when it's bottled. So I don't think it's single barrel. I think it's small batch, but it's a very small batch that's bottled at the same time each year. So you have like not an age statement, but you have a vintage on the back of the label. Eagle Rare 17 is really, really highly regarded and getting very, very hard to get hold of. I looked on Amazon out of interest while I was getting the prices for the Eagle Rare and the Buffalo Trace, and there was one person selling it basically on the second-hand market, and they were selling it for $2,000 a bottle. I did see it on one of the Facebook groups of people selling whiskey. Somebody was selling an Eagle Rare 17-year-old, which was I think it was spring 2012, and he was selling it he was asking for 450 quid. And I've been seeing some others on auctions for like 200, 250 quid, 300 quid, sort of thing like that. Just give me 1 second. I found this in the back of my cupboard, and I had completely forgotten that I got it. I've no idea where I got it from. I got it in the UK somehow because it has a UK customs label on it. But I genuinely can't remember buying this, being given it as a present, having bought it. I've got a cupboard under the stairs with a wine rack that's half wine, half whiskey, and I was pulling out all the various bottles to kind of line up, my own personal bottles. It's like, right, what ones have I got? Which ones am I going to open? Right, I've got the Eagle Rare 10. Oh, what's that next to it? Oh, Christ, it's an Eagle Rare 17. So this particular one, because it actually says on the front of the label when it's been bottled, this was bottled in fall of 2005. So I have no idea how much this is worth. I have no intention of opening it just yet. I'm going to keep an eye on the guy on Facebook to see if he sells his for 450 quid. But yes, quite lucky to have that. And if anybody wants to make any offers for it, it would go towards my kids' education. It might last them a week, but we'll see. So I have the 10-year-old and I have the 17-year-old. I would love, love, love to try the 10 and the 17 one after the other, and I will throw it out there that if anybody does have any 17, because I'm really reluctant to open that, I really am. I know I should, and I kind of do have a go at people that hold on to bottles just for the sake of selling it, but that could go a long way to my kids' education. Somehow, one way or the other. But I've got the 10-year-old open now, and if anybody's got a 17 out there and they basically want to do a sample swap, so I'll send some of this if somebody wants to send some 17, and then we could try the two side by side, because it would be fascinating to see what the differences are. Anyway, let's go on with the 10, bearing in mind that once I've had this, I'm then going to be having the Buffalo Trace, which, according to the bump that I'm reading about, the mash bill is the same as Eagle Rare and Buffalo Trace, and also the George T. Stagg range as well. I'll go into that when I do Buffalo Trace. So it would be really, really interesting to see what the differences are between the two, because this is obviously older, this is single barrel, whereas Buffalo Trace is non-age statement, so you're probably younger, and also multiple barrels as well. I think he says, looking at it, just making sure that it doesn't say anything about it being single barrel. No, that's not. Good for that. Right, so happy Independence Day, America. Well done for breaking free of the shackles of us. Do you reckon we'll be having an Independence Day in England for June 23rd? Was it 23rd? Whatever it is. Oh, it's going to pot at the moment. It's just ridiculous. I wish I was over there with you, America. So 45%. And there is quite a bit of heat on it, actually. More heat than I was expecting. I know I've had Eagle Rare 10 before, and I can remember it being like really smooth and rich, and one of my favourite whiskies, but this is hotter on the nose than I remember it being. But it's a classic bourbon heat, so it's, again, and as I keep bloody saying every single time, dark fruits, Christmas cake, raisins, concentrated raisins now. This is like opening a box of sun-made raisins and taking a big sniff, but then also, you know, fire and heat of alcohol. It's hotter than I remember, but there is a really, really nice raisiny character to it. And it's not quite dark chocolate, but it's a little darker than milk chocolate as well. So it's kind of a lower cocoa percentage dark chocolate with fruit and nuts as well. Yeah, like chocolate, fruit and nut, but a dark chocolate, fruit and nut. The heat's actually really well balanced. It's not too overpowering. If you followed some of my other bourbons, you'll know that I don't really prefer the fierier type of bourbons, but bourbon needs some of that characteristics. That's what separates bourbon from every other whiskey and Scotch and everything like that. And it's got that real rich, if it was Scotch you'd be saying really heavily sherried, but it's got that rich dark fruitiness, the plums and raisins and damsons, and it's like a compote as well. It's not jamminess, but it's like a concentration of those dark fruits. It's absolutely perfect for a log fire. It really is. The heat is just about my level. If it was any fierier, I'd start to be put off, but to be honest, it dies quite quickly. It's there, but as soon as you swallow it dies, and it doesn't hit the back of your throat, it's in the roof of your mouth, and then it just dies off relatively quickly to let all the flavours come out. So I'm not going to add any water to it because I don't think it needs it, to be honest. It's balanced almost to perfection. It's not a huge finish. What there does linger. It's not a massive amount of flavour, but it does keep going. It's just trickling along. It's just kind of popping its head up to say hello, but it's not staying with you. You sort of like realise it's still there, and then it disappears and then comes back a little bit. This is a really, really solid bourbon. Elmer T. Lee, I was saying previously, was a stereotypical bourbon. And I think it was yesterday with the Noah's Mill where I was saying that Noah's Mill was like the next level up. This is one of those where it's like the next level up of every classic characteristic of a bourbon that you would possibly want. It's got the fire, it's got the heat, it's got the spiciness, but it's got the rich fruit flavours, it's got the length of finish. It's just really, really well made. And to be honest, it's like $30, I think that's a brilliant price. 36 quid, I think that's a really good price. I think that is absolutely fantastic for the price in the UK, and that's Amazon full price. That's not on a sale or anything like that. That's their standard price, and I think that is a fantastic price for a very, very good bourbon indeed. So yeah, really just great bourbon to celebrate Independence Day for the Americans. Not just in name, not just in the logo of the beautiful bottle. I think it's absolutely beautiful piece of packaging, but also for what's in the glass as well. It is classic American whiskey. It is classic bourbon in every sense, but it's classic, well made, well rounded. Everything you would want in a bourbon is in that bottle. You could add some water to it as well, and if you didn't quite, if the heat was a little bit too much for you, a couple of drops just to knock that heat back, but don't dilute the flavours too much. It's great stuff. It is beautiful in every way, packaging and the whiskey inside. Fantastic stuff. Right, so I'm going to do a quick rinse out, and then essentially I'm going to be trying the same whiskey, supposedly. So we'll see how that one goes. I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.